3A, our student reps report. You've got a new partner with you tonight too.
I do, yeah.
The touch screen should be working. Okay. So I don't have to flip.
Yeah.
No promises, but it should be.
Thanks for doing this each month, and I like how you're tag teaming it. That's great.
Yeah, you know, it's just, for some reason, Abby and I just can't meet at the same time.
That's all
but-
right.
Okay, so hopefully this works. So I'm Katie, and this is Issa. She's Abby's fill-in for tonight.
Welcome.
Oops. I might have to just. Oh,
Let's give it a good
spoke too
laugh.
soon. Oh no. Okay, we're gonna hope this works. Okay, so starting off with high school athletics, all winter sports began practice at the beginning of the month. They've all been kicking off their season successfully with games, meets, and competitions starting soon if they haven't already. I know girls basketball has their first home game tomorrow at 7, so come check that out. And the rest of the schedules are moving forward after Thanksgiving, I believe.
The arts at SHFs has really kicked off this month. We had our musical, Beauty and the Beast, performed last weekend, and we have a new art club, and the band and choir are preparing for their Disney trip coming up over Thanksgiving break.
Okay, so Beauty and the Beast performed last weekend, and they had a really good turnout. I know I went and there were people struggling to find seats, so that's amazing. The cast and crew have been working super hard on this for months in the show, and it has turned out to be one of the best that I think SHS has seen in a long time. Directors Jamie Palbicki and Bethany Kazmarek have put in so much time along with the whole cast and crew to build an incredible set and choreograph an incredibly well put together show. And then that's Kayla Herda and Jack Schottler as Beauty and the Beast.
The Disney trip, the band and choir are headed to their Disney trip this weekend before Thanksgiving break. They have a super excited group to get the opportunity to learn from professional performers. They'll have the opportunity to both perform in the park and enjoy the park recreationally.
And then Art Club also kicked off this month. It's a new club at SHS that provides any Somerset student with the opportunity to make, observe, and enjoy art. They had their first semi-monthly meeting on the 5th and are excited about new opportunities that it will bring to the school.
At the high school, we just honored 50+ students for academic excellence and academic lettering, with the academic letters and certificates for students who either had a GPA of 3.5 to 3.9 last year, they got a certificate, or students who had a GPA of 4.0 or plus last year. Students took a trip to WITC last week for Career Day to investigate some careers. Student Council has recently been sponsoring
Hat Fridays.
Hat Fridays, where students can pay $1 every Friday to wear a hat. The proceeds this month are going to the food shelf and next month to Toys for Tots.
Yeah, so next month, Student Council as a whole is taking a trip to Toys for Tots, and we help families shop for their kids and stuff, and then we also purchase gifts that we bring, so that's what all of that money is going to be going towards, hopefully. So the elementary school, they honored 75 October Super Spartan students this last month for showing kindness across the school. Last week, parents and special guests came to the school to celebrate with these Spartans during their lunch hours. They had great feedback from the guests that they enjoyed their special time with the students.
I can add to that.
Yeah.
I happened to attend. And they had a special, the stage was set with tables and tablecloths. So if you were there for your special guest, you didn't have to sit down amongst the common. Just kidding. But you got to sit up on the stage with tablecloths, and so you had grandmas and grandpas and moms and dads and everybody. So there were a lot of picture taking, and it was a really good time because you got to be up there on the stage rather than down. And I think that's the first time. And I was there on a Thursday, and I think Mrs. Philippi said at that point, and they can come any day during the week. It isn't just one day. And as of Thursday at noon, they had 90% of families and parents show up, and they still had a day to go. So it was really, it was neat.
Awesome.
At the middle school, September and October students of the month were honored at a celebratory breakfast. The 8th grade FACE had a bake sale where they raised $330 for cancer research and Gregory's Gift of Hope.
And then this month's special feature, we decided to talk about the SHS Tutoring Center. So this year, SHS students in the National Honor Society created Somerset's very own tutor center, where anyone can go get homework or test prep assistance from NHS members. They have a whole room dedicated to it, which the counselors help decorate along with the NHS students. NHS students who excel in a particular subject sign in so students who show up know what subjects they can get help with at any given time.
That, I think, I'm sorry to interrupt you,
No,
but
go for
that is an excellent program because Cade actually took it to college and he became both a TA and a tutor. And I think that factored into that. He got the experience and he enjoyed it, so way to go. Whoever's getting to do that, I think it's great.
All right, and that's all we have for you this month.
Really nice, thank you. The plate on the back of the program, Jamie Palvicki, one of the directors, had put a great thank you to you, Trent, and to George. Kudos. That set was phenomenal, as it always is. Becky and Eric were part of it too. Always an awesome show. They bring out such gifts out of kids that you might never see in any other performance, and I thought it was really, whether it's athletics or not, it was really, I don't know what night you went, but the night I was there too, it was packed.
Yeah, it was Friday, and like no one
Yes.
could find a seat.
It really
That's
was.
great.
Really neat. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, you can leave whenever you need to.
Okay.
We're glad that you can come.
Yeah, right.
Take some home.
All right, so then, any other questions for our student reps? Now let's move on to item 3B, our superintendent's report.
Okay, just a few things here, and our people from Wold and Margaret Johnson will talk about this, and I don't think anything has changed, but we were mildly surprised at the elementary bids as far as cost-wise. And you always expect things to escalate over a year or two, but again, I was very comfortable with the prices, the way they came in, and again, they'll walk us through the documents, and this will kind of the tip of the iceberg of what you're gonna see when we come into January and February, and we on big item bids, things like that, so you'll get a first-hand shot at the process now. Veterans Day program was very nice. It was at the beginning of the program, I got to shake hands with all the veterans, and one of them slipped me a $1,000 check for collegiate as a donation. I think they do that every year. Okay, so I happened to be the one with a handout at that time, so that was very nice. Bridging Somerset, and I've met with the village and the township board. I'm not scheduled for the Star Prairie Township for a bit here, but Kim Dunleap and I are moving forward with the Bridging Somerset 2.0, and again, that group is going to be more community-based rather than elected official-based. Tim Witzman from the township is going to be their representative. The village hasn't given me a name yet, but they said they will, and we need a representative from this group also, and we're going to try and get this thing rolling here probably in December now as far as the first meeting again. Administrative guidelines, this is something that's kind of taken a back seat over the last year or so due to our referendum and our compensation work. We've been chipping away a little bit at a time, but right now we're pushing hard on that. The 1 through 3,000 series are, I've gone through them, they're out to the administrators now to put finishing touches on. And there's about 10 to 15 in each category, so it shouldn't take us a long time, but I'm just saying we'll get them done this year, just because it's always taken a backseat to something, and now we've got time, we're gonna chug through those. The employee handbook, talking with Jody, she has some surveys that have gone out to the middle border and area schools, and we're slowly getting the data back in, and so we'll get that out to you as soon as we can. And we're planning on that next work session, the December 2nd work session, to go through the items that more information was requested for. And and we'll have a good base of information for you there. School report cards are out, obviously, and the principals are here and Trish are here to give a review of the report card this year. And I won't mention it, I won't take any time during this, but the data from the report card has a direct correlation with my student achievement goal that I'm working on. So that'll all be included with all the DAPE stuff that I'm going through right now, and you should have that in the next week or so also, having mastered DAPEs now. a note on the compensation plan, over the past week or two, we've been talking with, people have questions, they come in, we meet with them, and, we've just been down to one or two, with situations that, kind of looking for exceptions to the process, and just wanna let you know that we've held very tight to Victoria's work that she's done and the process, for the, market adjustment and the grid adjustment to the rules that we've used through the whole thing. We haven't granted any exceptions. Again, we've talked to several people. Most of it, once you explain the process, they understand, but it's not my power to grant any exceptions. So just to let you know that I think we almost have all the contract notes signed and returned now. Enrollment-wise, from last month, this month, we're up 5. From last year, we're up 23. So it's always a good trend.
Yeah.
Because typically what you'll see is starting high and you dwindle down and, you just get less, but, good sign, we're growing slightly. So that's what I have.
That is good. I too had a couple, actually just one teacher asked me to make sure that everyone of the board members was aware that there still are some that are not happy with how their placement ended up. And I feel really comfortable. You, Katie, stressed very much so consistency. And I do think it may appear that the board directed the review, but we really relied on the service we paid for. Victoria really was the one who gave us the guidance, and that was what established we start at this point. We will do it in this order. These are the questions still to be evaluated. Those went back to Victoria. So it was a constant evaluation. Though we couldn't do everything that everyone wanted, good progress was made. And I really appreciate the efforts that the Business Services Department put into it. I appreciate the input that we got from teachers, even those that were disappointed with what their final results. There's no perfect answer, no perfect system, but we made some good progress. And I hope that it continues, that we can keep attracting good, excellent teachers and keep moving forward as a unified school.
Can I speak to that just briefly?
Sure.
Because I did hear from a teacher, and when it was explained to me, kind of the discrepancy had to do with the timing of when she got her master's degree and when we went on. And I would appreciate maybe at the work session if we could get a little more information on it. I mean, I think it was a valid, only from that one side I know. I don't know what the decision making was on the other side, but if we could have it as an agenda item just to talk about it, that would be, because if, going from the bachelor's to the master's is a big deal and has
Expensive.
huge impact. And very expensive.
Yeah, and I think, Mark mentioned exceptions, and Marie, you spoke to it a bit, but I think it would be important for the entire board to be aware of, and Mark said something about if there's going to be an exception made, that it was up to the board to make the exception, and so to make an exception or an adjustment, if one needs to be made, the entire board needs to be aware of what it is. So, yeah, I would like to see that on the December work session as well.
We can put it on the work session. I appreciate your input on it. We'll look at it at the work session. I think we'll get some good feedback from why Victoria made the suggestion she did and why it would be very
Right.
valuable for us to follow her guidance. We paid for it. And anything else for Dr. Busick? Any other questions? Then let's move on to, I would say you touched upon the enrollment, so we're on to 3D. Are there any questions? I don't know that we have Dave here, so if you do have questions on the financial reports,
We can get them.
Yep.
Next door.
okay. Did anyone have any? And just to let the people who might be deciding to tune in, on the website, you're able to find those financial reports under the Business Services Department, as well as our policies are on the website too. So Then on to 3E. You talked a little bit, Dr. Beasley, about bridging Somerset. The CISA too, the biggest things that I noticed, Jerry made rounds to all the schools that they serve, not all of them, excuse me, the majority of them. One of the things that I consistently see is the support and the way they work together at CISA. Definitely they're set up in a different situation than each individual school is, as far as who they serve and how they're accountable to them. But the unity really shows in that they're coming back with ideas and able to support each other in implementing them. One of the speakers that's coming talks about telling your story, and I think Somerset has a really valuable story to share. We've gotten tremendous support this year and last through the success of a referendum, both to aid in increasing salaries and in enhancing our schools. The arts, I'm excited about this arts club. We've got terrific and strong and supported arts programs going on. We've always had very strong athletics, so it's a wonderful thing to see a district grow with that kind of strength. We can work on our communications, everybody can. We can work on our unity, everybody can. But I see really good things happening, and I think that bodes well for our kids, which is our bottom line.
Can I add on to CISA?
Sure.
I don't know, is anybody else doing the reviews of the Herb Cole Award?
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, so, yeah.
It's time
yeah.
consuming, I so appreciate your
So
willingness.
we're in the midst of doing both the student one and the teacher ones, and so I've been reviewing those, and and if you volunteer, feel free next year. Each person does 17.
And they're
That's a
pretty,
lot to do, and
they're pretty
there's a lot
intense.
in there, but man, there's some really talented folks out there that just, it's so interesting to read how teachers are going way over and beyond their classrooms, because that's what the Herb Cole Award, and it's how are you significantly impacting your school, your classroom, and your community, and how can you bring these wonderful ideas and not only raise student achievement, but how are you gonna bring them forward again the next year and to make it sustainable. So it's really an amazing thing to read some of those. It's very time consuming, but it's really good. And that's all through CISA.
Yeah, the award has increased too, the value of it, the return of it, and the return also when you have a teacher, and we have had teachers as recipients, the school also gets a financial, award, I would say.
Mhm.
That reminds me, there is the opportunity, they need judges and maybe it's proctors, I'm not exactly clear what they call them, for their academic, it's like a decathlon. And I wrote down the name, but I'm not sure what it is. So they need 80 volunteers, to come and help with a particular day, academic decathlon, and it's gonna be held in Barron County, campus. And there's a need for 80. So if any of you are interested.
What's the date?
I did not write that down, but I will find out. I will find out, because I think that's a tremendous opportunity too. I don't know if we have kids gearing up to go
Do
to
you guys
that,
know what that involves?
the academic decathlon. Okay, we need to learn a little bit more about it, but in the meantime, I'll find out the date and what it is, they have individual coaches, I know that. And so I'll learn a little bit more. I made the assumption we did, I'm sorry, I will learn more about it. Every month at CISA, we also get the treasurer's report, so as Dave puts on the website. I think that's it for CISA. So on to community ed, Catherine.
Nothing to report.
And actually along that line, I stopped at the library today. What a lot of work, but what a different Main Street we have. That's really neat.
It's all done?
All right, back to item 3E4, the Employee Council. Did you have any information you wanted to?
I'm not sure why it's still on.
Okay. So then we'll move to 3E5, the Memorial Scholarship Fund. Lori.
The videos are prepared, and when you attend your next basketball game or wrestling match, you should see a video about the scholarship fund on the score vision. The applications will be given out to seniors on Monday, January 13th. There will be a senior meeting with all the seniors. Pam Powers, our scholarship committee president, will be attending that. we want to ensure that all seniors receive information to apply for the scholarships. So they'll be open on January 13th. The deadline for turning them in is March 4th. Last year, we gave out, I had these numbers, now I forgot again. I think it was 55 scholarships and 45 scholarships, and how much money, do you remember?
Oh,
It was,
close to $30,000, I think, if not more than that. Well, we had some bigger ones last year because it was the 100th year of the American Legion. Their scholarships were much larger than they regularly are. They were double what they usually are, so.
so there's opportunities for our seniors to get help with their education beyond Somerset. So we encourage them all to apply.
The participation at the scholarship committee, thank you for being a part of that, is phenomenal. They are continuing to sell, Trent, I don't know if you can coordinate that, the tickets, what do you call it, 50/50? And they were at the play, they are everywhere. I know that's taking a lot of volunteers, and I think it's just phenomenal.
Pam Powers heads that up. We get her the dates of the home events and they get the workers, the committee lines up the workers for that, so they show up. It's awesome.
So when you see Pam Powers,
And the
thank
committee,
her. But also be willing, if you would, to help along. It just takes a village. All right, so thank you very much. Is there anything that we missed? If not, we're gonna scoot on to, do I have anyone here this evening that has a public comment? Then we will scoot on to item 5, the advanced services and operations. We're gonna now welcome you guys. And I apologize, you had to sit through 36 minutes. Thank you for your patience.
Do you guys have something you want to bring up on screen, or where do you want to start, I guess?
Well, we should make a motion, and then have discussion, and
So-
then you can explain.
Do you want to do it that way? All right. Is there anyone willing to make a motion?
I'll
that
make
this-
a motion
Thank you, Bruce.
to approve it.
And thank you, Bob, for seconding it. We have a motion on the table for recommending the school board approve the elementary construction bid as presented. So now, you get to present.
Yeah, we just thought it'd be a good idea for have them walk through our first bidding process here, so kind of get a flavor of what's yet to come.
Terrific.
So I'll turn it over.
Yeah, great. Were you guys able to cast it up on the screen? Yep, so in general, like you guys know, there's a big design process that Justin and his team run through. Talking to folks at the school, seeing how, programming works and how you guys. Let's go to this one. See how programming works, and then ultimately Justin and his team, they provide documents to us that we put out on the, to the public for bidding. Bids get advertised. We personally send out invitations, like for this one, goes out to our network of people, goes to the various builders exchanges. Builders exchanges are places where contractors go to get plans that are out for public bid. There's various locations. I think this one went to like 8 or 9, pretty much every location in Wisconsin and Minnesota, as will future ones. And we get bids on these various sections. Every one of these lines that you see here is a separate bid section. And they're a section for a reason. It's because it's usually a specialized piece of work. People that do that work tend to not do other pieces of work. And that can vary locally or regionally as well. So we took bids on all those sections. Tasia had, the other piece was a bid tab. We tabulate all the bid tabs so you can see which bids got the most, or you can see how people stacked up to each other.
Is that the one that has the alternate bids listed?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
How does,
So-
is that somebody else who bid on it? or-
Nope, so an alternate bid is a pricing item that's usually identified early on in the project as, financially, if we have enough money, or if the bids would allow, we'd like to do X. Or if the bids come in and it costs more than we thought, maybe we take X out of the project. So in this case, probably should have labeled these. alternate bid one, in this case, was to get rid of the door and just put full glass in.
So there's a door going from what'll be the new vestibule space into an adjacent conference room. So that alternate is take that door out and to put just solid glass and to basically match what's next to it.
And this alternate bid two, that is, like when everybody's gonna be routed through the district office, or not the district office, but,
You know,
It's a
the
reception.
main office, the reception area. When you go in there now, on the way, what I would call right-hand side of the desk, there's the cutout for the ADA. And this is to make a cutout on the left side, so when people come in, if somebody has special needs, they can also have that
Yep.
support right there.
So it's a desk modification to the existing reception desk in that space.
And these would be, these are additional expenses unless they're,
Yep, so we could choose to reject them or we could choose to accept them.
Keisha, sorry, if you go back to the next one. So these numbers here, you take the low number per section and then go to the next sheet. And that'll tie into here. These numbers will tally up to here. Construction management services, that was, you know, the percentage that was in the RFP when, you know, you guys hired us as a construction manager. And then there's a construction contingency. That's obviously all your guys' money. Could be spent for, you know, modifications requested by you guys, things of that nature.
oh, there it is, right there.
Down here, in here, and this sheet is gonna get a lot more populated as we get into the bigger parts of the project, but you got architectural and engineering fees, which in this case, we're not projecting any, you know, that'll be on the bigger parts of the project. Order items is one thing that, as we get into the bigger parts of the project, we'll have to, you know, as a group, get our arms around that. Could mean furniture, could mean technology, could mean, you know, a lot of the things that you guys are gonna spend money on, that's part of the end dollars, right? You know, you don't wanna build a house and not be able to put a couch in it type of thing. So that section we'll have to work on to get populated as a group. Then down here, it's taken up a little bit, but you'll see those alternate figures as well, follow along. And then on that other sheet, I think it was in the actual recommendation letter that I sent, you take this number, add those two numbers together, that would be like the guaranteed maximum price of the project.
So any questions on that? How is that falling within the original projection?
I think last year, year before, when we bid it out,
Yep.
so it was about 81,000 or so.
I think it was 83, but so we bid this project out last summer and it came in at $83,000. So we were expecting to see some inflation on top of that, and we really didn't see any. It came in really, really close to the $83,000 number, so really happy with that.
That
Is
is one.
Is there some more electrical in this bid?
There was also an added piece of work that we put in here too. So instead of just basically modifying the existing fire alarm electrical panel in the building, we're actually splitting that panel into two. That wasn't part of the project last summer, so that's actually included in here, so we're getting a little more bang for our buck this time around.
Wonderful. That sounds really exciting, really promising. Lori, did you have a question?
Well, if this is the bid that we are going to be voting on to accept, I would like to amend it based on your letter that you wrote. Right now, it says that VBH is the winning bid for the doors, frames, and hardware, but in your letter, you said that Twin City Hardware.
Yep, so their bid was late. You know, there's a bid, it's a public bid opening at 2, right? Twin City Hardware, Steve is his name, he was the only guy from any hardware companies that came to the walkthrough. And, you know, we were sitting, me and Mr. Bezek and Justin were sitting here. I was like, you know, I didn't see a bid from Twin City Hardware, and I called him, you know, on my way back, and I said, Steve, you know, what's the deal? He said, oh, I thought, you know, the bid wasn't for such date. And I said, no, it bid today. He was like, well, you know, we accept email bids, and, you know, I was like, well, did it go to my spam folder or anything like that? And that wasn't the case, they just simply forgot. So, I mean, it is a late bid, and a lot of places, late bids don't get accepted, so,
But I read in your letter that
These
we have.
numbers are not including that bid.
These numbers are not including that bid, correct?
Right, but it's in the other sheet. And I read in your letter that the board has the right to accept a late bid.
Yep, it's your money, you can do whatever you want with it.
So if they're the company that you think knows the job the best and they're the lowest bid, it seems to me it would be prudent.
Yep, so if you go, like in that instance, if you guys didn't wanna do something like that, if you could go up a little bit, Tasia, sorry.
Nope, you're good.
So this contingency, that's your money. All this is your money, regardless, but, so, doors and frames, so, right here, if their bid was say 15,000, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, $818 here.
Twin Cities Hardware is $14,535.
Okay, so there's $1,200-ish that you would take from this here, put here, at the end of the job let me back up. This would get credited back if you don't use it. So at that, you take that money from there, put it there, and if you guys don't use it throughout the project, it gets credited back.
Right.
So in looking at your recommendation and in mine, how does it normally unfold if someone is late on the bids?
Usually they don't get accepted.
That's what I have encountered too when we did it through the town, so.
Mhm.
Well, is it a bid through Market and Johnson, or is it a bid through the Somerset School District? That's my question. Like, is it you
It's a bid through
putting
us.
it out,
You're-
saying, your bid is due at noon on
Yeah,
this day? And then I'm less likely to,
So is it on us or is it on you? Is that what the question is?
yeah, is it for Market Johnson, or is it through the school?
Well, it says in the letter that we have the right.
But what difference does it make if the practice is really, if it's late, it's late? Does it matter if it's through them or on us?
Well, I think it matters to our taxpayers.
Well,
But you wanna set a
do you wanna
precedence.
get in a lawsuit?
Yeah, that's
No.
what I don't.
Well, that's the question, is it really a lawsuit if it's on Market and Johnson?
That's a good question you're asking.
Is it worth 1,200 to find out?
Well, I don't think it's worth 1,200 to find out, but I think it's worth 100,000 to find out later on. Like, I don't have any problem saying giving it to Twin City Hardware instead of this VBH for $1,200, I mean. Because it's through
Yeah,
Market Johnson, you're setting the time and it has nothing to do with the school. I don't think, but I don't know the Wisconsin rules, I guess.
Well, Bob, you deal with this stuff all the time.
But he's doing it through
Well,
the
we have a
village and.
consultant do it, and that's, who we hire, so yeah, I have been doing this for a long time, and we generally just don't accept them.
Mhm.
Or if we want, we will contact the low bid and say we had somebody come in, do you guys wanna
Wanna
bow out?
Mhm.
And then we have them sign a legal form that identifies us from anything, and, cause sometimes they're okay not getting the job, they have enough on their plate, so I don't know if that's the same situation, so.
Well, we had this kind of situation with the library. And
Right.
you're late, you're out.
Mhm.
We were afraid, we were told by our attorneys, you're late, you're out.
Yeah, that's, I
Those
guess,
with the
public
risk.
bid, it's different. I mean, private, if you doing something private, we have bid times all the time and you're taking bids
Mhm.
No,
weeks
government money.
afterwards, or a long time afterwards.
If it were a lot more cash at stake, I might be more tempted, but only after legal advice.
Well, yeah, you didn't say anything in your letter about that this could be a legal issue.
And the other question I have is, this is not the last opportunity for VBH or for.
No.
No, absolutely.
There'll be other projects within, and
next
so
time
if
I'll
we
get it on
do
time.
not, hopefully it will encourage them next time to be more aware
Right.
on top of that bid schedule timing. So I think it sets a precedence for how the whole project might play out.
Yeah, I totally appreciate Lori's catching that, totally.
Yep, and
Just makes it
hopefully
better.
it'll be incentive too, knowing
Well-
that you brought that, to the attention, that they would be more inclined.
I know, I hate this stuff. I'm the same
So-
where I want the least amount, and you
Yep.
have people who don't fill out a
Bid form correctly.
bid form right, or a form isn't yet submitted, or you're emails down for the day and you don't get it in, you're gonna
Mhm.
save a bunch of money, it's.
I think in this situation, we need to go with the bids that are in.
That'd be my recommendation. I mean, you think of this job, I mean, your referendum is 20-some million dollars, and like you said, it's the tip of the iceberg. You get this situation down the road and it's 6 figures, and it'd be a big deal. I just wouldn't.
I think we don't
Go
wanna
down.
set the precedent,
Right.
Just look-
continually reevaluating late bids.
Just opens us up to,
Yeah, too many potential lawsuits.
as much as I wanna save money, but it just,
But if there is a big one.
That might be worth the risk.
You can
Well,
always, you can
just
always.
I don't wanna learn it on this one here.
check it
I
out
don't wanna-
first.
Talking to Trevor, late
Yeah.
that I got here.
Yeah.
Well, and
Rebid.
two, I imagine when you put out these requests for bids, you're putting in there the language that says late bids will not be accepted.
Yeah.
So they've seen that, so I think if we stopped honoring that or respecting that, we're asking for challenges.
Good discussion on a small item.
So we have a motion on the table to approve the elementary construction bid as presented by Bruce and seconded by Bob. There was a suggestion by Lori to amend it.
I will withdraw my amendment.
Okay,
Are we accepting the alternates?
The
Do we wanna
counter
wait?
and the door, and what I'd recommend is definitely yes. The door issue, you know, we're creating a secured entrance. We just feel having another door there is not creating a secured entrance.
Okay.
So, and then the ADA piece, we need to do that.
As we get farther down the line too with the alternates, I mean, that's your money. I mean, and you guys know the use of your building more than not. I mean, we can make recommendations on whether it fits within the whole, budget or not, from that aspect, but ultimately it is your decision to do alternates or not. These are obviously really, really small, but on the next project, you're gonna get some that are gonna be 6 figures, maybe even $1 million, so.
and I imagine on the next one, then the contingency is gonna be a lot larger too.
You know, it'll still be 5%
It's-
of whatever
Yep.
the project is worth.
And again, that's our money, so
Right.
if we don't use it, back.
Can the next RFP send, can you send it to us too,
Yes.
or something?
A copy of the bid documents, you mean?
Yeah.
I'll put you guys on like okay.
Do you mean prior to it going out?
Yeah, when it goes out to the
At
mass.
the same time?
You know,
You should,
So not necessarily, you're not asking for us to be able to look at it to approve it? 'Cause
No,
we've asked
no.
everyone just to.
just send me your emails and then we'll get you
Just
guys
see
on
what's it.
the smart bid list or something.
thanks.
So we have a motion on the table in a second. All those, any other questions?
Can we just clarify that it is for the $89,524?
Yep, we can double check my math, but that should be that and those two added together.
Yeah, that's what's in your letter
Mhm.
with the alternate bids.
That's what the letter is.
So that's the recommendation as presented
I
then.
think the letter's over for approving.
The letter is the recommendation.
Okay.
So a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Guys, thanks so much for working with us on this. I hope it gets smoother, easier, whatever, but this is a great start. It's very encouraging.
You guys have any other questions with what's going on?
And you're gonna do that during Christmas break?
Yes, we're gonna, well, now that we have approval from you guys, I'll be contacting these folks and, we'll get them the bid results. That was the first thing, so people can see where they fell in on their bids. And then the first step is I gotta talk to this person right there because that takes the longest to get. That'd be the aluminum frame that goes in. So as soon as I find out how fast we can get that, a lot of the work, the heavy lifting can happen over winter break, like cutting through the masonry wall and things like that. As far as when it's a finished product, we'll have to find out from those folks as soon as they can get that.
Great, great.
And then Justin and his team, they continue to hammer away on, the design process.
The elementary, the middle school, the high school, and the site.
I think we have a budget presentation. When is that?
The next meeting, December 2nd.
Your next meeting, so you'll see numbers similar to this format. You'll probably see, this one is for the elementary secure entrance, is a very small tip of the iceberg, and then there'll be 3 others. There'll be one for the elementary maintenance and HVAC electrical upgrades. There'll be one for the high school. There'll be one for the middle school, and there'll be one for the site work. So you'll take these, at the end of the day, you'll take these 4 sheets and stack them together. You'll have an amount. And obviously, I'm sure your referendum includes other things other than construction, so you'll see where that number falls in.
We'll also have a DDE presentation, similar to how we did the SD, where we had handed out the booklets. So we'll have some images of what we've been working on in that booklet.
Should we let him know that? Thank you very much. It's nice to see it come in close there too, even though it was done last year. So then on to item 5B, and we aren't gonna make you guys sit through anymore if you do not want to, but please take some cookies for the ride. All right, so the Fab Lab grant. I'm looking for a motion that the school board support the new grant application and potential matching dollars for the high school Fab Lab project. Is anyone interested in making that motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Bob. And a second? I'll second that. I am a big fan of any grants moving forward. So tell us, can somebody tell us a little bit about this?
I think is this last year, Trish?
Is
Or
this the last year? Is that what you said?
How many years are we eligible for this grant?
No, we have applied, this will be our 4th year applying. 4 years ago, we did not receive it. 2 years ago, we did get it. Last year, we did not. And one of the factors is you have to have a letter right at the front end of this grant that says, we will sustain, how we will sustain, that we will back it, we will support this by matching dollars. Pretty easy this next year with the construction going on, because all those construction dollars also can be part of the match, as well as other outside grants, which we secure throughout the year. So the matching part would not be new money, it would just be, again, how we support our Project Lead the Way program, how Anne Marie supports Project Lead the Way, and the construction going on in the buildings should support it as well, easily getting us to the matching dollars.
But how much in matching dollars?
25,000. It's pretty competitive, kind of comes and goes. We're gonna give it a good shot.
Great. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. I'm looking forward to that continuing. Thank you for your work with that.
You bet.
That's great for the kids too. All right, on to item 6A, our school report cards. Who gets the pleasure of?
I get to kick us off.
Trish gets to kick it off.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Tasia. Is that mouse hooked up?
I asked for this because many are asking about, questions on the schedule and that, and I think this gives us a benchmark or one means of measuring it. So I appreciate them presenting for us. I think it's good information for us to hear, but also for whoever tends to watch.
Absolutely. And we received our state assessment scores this summer. They weren't released to the public until this fall. And then immediately afterward, our state report cards came out, which are based on our state assessment scores. So this fall, when we first received all of our information, we pulled together all of our leadership team, building leadership, and we really went through examining our scores, analyzing our scores. We went through a full root cause analysis of what do we believe is contributing to our scores. And then from that information, when we came back in September for our first release day, we worked with each one of the buildings and 100% of our teaching staff who were here that day to look at a practice inquiry. So based on our root cause, we looked at our practices that could change trajectory, that we should stop, what we should start. And then from there, all of us wrote professional practice goals, part of our EE program, to make it highly relevant and highly aligned to the work in order to impact our student achievement and growth. This year, I'm going to kick us off with the district level report card so you can understand better what the priority areas are and how they contributed to the overall scores. And then each one of the principals is going to come up and actually talk about places where there's celebration and places where we really need to concentrate time and effort, intentional professional development, etc. Kind of a tricky year given that we don't have a lot of staff meetings after school and access to teachers, but we're finding other ways to really continue some good conversation. So here we go. Our overall rating as a district, the district score is computed as if we are one large school. So it doesn't take the high school scores plus the middle school as an entity in the elementary school. What it does is takes all, I think this is based on 1,500 students approximately. Based on all 1,500 regardless of where they are going to school, so from our 3rd graders to our 11th graders primarily. We also have some graduation rate in here. We come out in the exceeding expectations category. That's great news. This is where we have been living since the district report cards came out. We have a slight dip this year based on a couple factors that we'll go over both at my level and then at the district, at the individual level. Excuse me. Our overall scores across the board, we have 3 of our schools that still fall in that exceeding expectations category. Terrific. The high school still falls within meets. These are all places where we lived last year as well. If you look at the 4 priority areas, student achievement, student growth, closing gaps, and on track and post-secondary readiness, any place where you see an asterisk is a place where we maintained above state scores. Each one of our categories across the board has one area that we are going to be devoting some extra time and attention to, that we fell just slightly below state scores. So as we talk about student achievement, our score is 72.3. This is our students hitting benchmarks. So our students who are proficient or advanced, this is a proficiency-based point system. So for every student across the board in our state assessment program that is proficient, we get 1 point. Every student that is advanced, we get 1.5. Every student that is basic, we get 0.5, and if you're below basic, 0. They add up all of those points. They do a wonderful calculation based on 3 years of data, so they look across 3 years. And we came out above state average again, which has been consistent since 15-16. When we look at district growth, this one is a little different story. This one requires at least 2 years of consecutive years of test scores. We did not have that in the past, so brand new this year in 2019-20, we have the high school coming in with growth scores. This is the first time they went backwards and pulled the Aspire scores, did a correlation to ACT, and now we have a growth score. So our 8th graders to 9th grade Aspire get a growth score. Our 9th grade then to 10th grade Aspire, there's another 2 years, there's a growth score. And Aspire in 10th grade to ACT give us that 3rd year. So the high school now has brought into the fold growth scores. This is a place we're spending quite a bit of time having some good conversations. Some of those conversations actually started, well, didn't start, but continued today with our high school math team doing some really strong work that Shannon will talk about a little bit later. What this does is compare growth of students compared to similar groups across the state. The really neat thing about this is now, because we have so many kids that are being assessed, we're able to break it down into subgroups, really looking at students who have a disability, students who come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, and see how they are growing compared to the state. And that's where these come in, and that's where we are having some really strong intentional conversations about how we support our students. Closing the gap scores. This is a tricky one. This one hit our elementary school pretty hard, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I'll come back up. Pam is out ill today, so I'm going to be Pam a little bit later. This score was so volatile across the state that we had many districts that dropped 20 points here. 20 straight down, boom, which just would have been a disaster. So the state decided to suppress the scores of any district that fell 20 points, which was a lot. Within the CISA 11 schools themselves, we have 156 schools that dropped over 20 points in this category in 1 year. So they decided, well, we're just gonna remove that. We're gonna suppress it. We don't need to do that to any school district. We didn't drop 20, we dropped, just like the state did. Our scores remained. So when you look at the CISA 11 and we start talking about scores, it's very difficult to look across and really pinpoint what's working, what's not working at this point. Next year, they've decided that this is no longer going to be calculated this way. They look at 5 years, they look at trend scores for individual groups, they compare it to a norm group. It's causing chaos. So for 2020, 2021, this will be calculated completely differently, and they do not know what that will look like yet. So,
I'm doing a wonderful job.
we're doing terrific. It's awesome, yeah. So we're not sure what that'll look like. It also kind of makes a mess on our report card. But we're going with it. We're having great discussions around it. We understand what trends they're looking at, and we are having those discussions at the building leadership level and at the building levels as well. The fourth area is on track in post-secondary readiness. They look at 4 factors as a district. Each school has different components that they bring to the table. Graduation rate is 1. We took a little dip in our graduation rate. Shannon will address that later. Next year, we will rebound. This graduation rate is over a year old, so it looks at our kids that graduated not 18, 19, but 17, 18. We had a little volatility there that will be addressed. We still stay strong in attendance rate, no hits across the board. Schools that have poor attendance rate actually get deductions to their scores. We are good. They look at 3rd grade English language arts. We know that that is a pivotal point for our students. They need to be readers at benchmark by 3rd grade. We're doing a lot of work around that as well across the district. And 8th grade math achievement as well factor into the 4 pieces. Okay. But attendance and graduation are really based on year-old data just because when they take the snapshot of data. So other information that is considered, this is something that changed a little bit this year. What they're doing to the scores is they weight the 4 priority areas differently. The bottom 2 get a 25-25, quarter of our overall score. The top 2 are based on our economically disadvantaged population. So based on where we are, that will fluctuate, and it fluctuates for every single district. So right now, we're going to get to it in a second, but our economically disadvantaged numbers went up by about 5% for the district.
So what are they now?
According to last year, at a district level, we are, this was last year's data, 23.7, and it is increasing this year. The report card is based on 23.7 as a district. So they now are shifting. We used to have more weight on achievement, but as our economically disadvantaged number goes up, they shift it to have more weight on our district growth. Taking students from where they are, how are we growing them? So we'll see this number fluctuate, and you'll see this number is different for every district across the state. Okay.
That's unusual. Has it always been like that?
Last few years.
It's different every year, isn't it?
Every year.
Yeah.
they shift. Yep. Our test participation remains really strong. Our testing practices are pretty solid. We believe that every student should be assessed at whatever level that would be appropriate if we're using that information to help guide them, to help make instructional decisions for them. So you can see we're at 98.3 for all of our students. With our lowest subgroup, they look at your lowest tested population. In math and ELA, they look 1 year, they look over 3 years, and we're still in the 90s for that. Some of our students do take other assessments, and some of our students opt out. Those are things we can't control. We are examining those testing practices to make sure that we're in alignment with the area and what others believe as well, to make sure we're not, we're trying to do the best we can for all of our students. Here's that other information. This report card is based on approximately 1,500 students. You can see $14.99 for the district. We also look at mobility. We also look at open enrollment. Each one of our schools has an open enrollment factor that they will see on their report cards. We look at our race and ethnicity, our demographics for the area based on last year, and then our student groups based on last year. No deductions were taken for absenteeism or for dropout rate. We are still well within the range of acceptable and even celebratory. So based on that data, based on our forward exams, looking closer at our growth scores, these are some things at a district level that we're really going after, and some of our, you'll see in a lot of our goals coming up. We're going to continue to work on our strategic plan. We're in year 3. Some strong work there, as well as watching out for those ESSA goals. DPI, Wisconsin DPI, has made a promise as part of ESSA based around equity and access for all students. The bar is the bar, believing that we have, that all students can learn and all students have equal access to learning. We are really pushing deeper and having concentrated efforts in both math and ELA. Here are just some of the things that we have in our professional development plan, our continuous improvement plan for this year. So, we brought on new math resources for grades 5 through 12. As part of our implementation plan, we will be supporting them not only last year, was our first year of study, this summer with implementation. They're coming back now this Friday, this Friday. Wow, November 22nd, we have them back on board to continue supporting the implementation of our math resource.
So is that a new curriculum?
Brand
Last
new.
year, 512,
Mhm,
I
512.
remember that.
This is
Envision.
the first year.
This
This
the
is our
first
first year.
with the kids.
We had a full year
You
of
had-
self-study.
Oh, did you have any pilots or anything?
Yes, we had multiple pilots, absolutely.
And how do you feel about it?
The teachers love it. Love it. There's a really high-quality online component where kids can do a little extra learning on their own or some pre-learning if necessary. They're able to adapt a lot, and it's working well. It's in a slightly different order than before, but teachers are making adjustments and working through it. I mean, my whole math department is thrilled with it. So,
We did some pretty solid work today. Oh,
yeah, ditto.
sorry. Oh, did I?
Yeah, great.
We did some really solid work today with the high school math team, brought them together, had them really going back to essential standards so we can focus our instruction, focus our time, focus our resources. I know, it's big work, especially because we have some new members. We have a new member, one that's 2 years old on that team. I'm trying to give kind of a roadmap through the resource as well. So after essentials are examined, developed, consensus is built, then they start looking at pacing across the year to make sure we don't have gaps. That has been a big issue in the last several years. We haven't had a viable curriculum. We said, here's what we're gonna do, and our pacing was off, and it was off every year. So we know that some of those gaps are things we have to fill because we impacted not getting all of our students to those places. So, great work today. They came out feeling really good, really strong, and moving forward. Now Friday, they'll have time with some instructional coaches to talk through other ways to use the resource. Balanced literacy, we're coming back for a resource refresher on Friday. We have some professionals coming in to help lead what is balanced literacy. What does that look like in the classroom? Et cetera. So this is going to be for K through 5. That will be followed by additional learning and coaching sessions throughout the year that we have paced across the year. And then secondary is going through an ELA resource review this year. So we've started work really looking at high quality materials, what is good alignment, what is best practice in instruction, and they will be piloting by second semester, and then we'll have a decision rendered and a professional development implementation plan for next year.
Can I go back to this balanced literacy K-5?
Yep.
So what are we using now?
We are using Journeys, balanced literacy program.
They just got that curriculum a few
Couple years
years
ago.
ago. It's relatively new.
Correct.
They came and presented to the board, if you might remember. Well, you might not have been on.
No, it was before your time.
No.
Yeah, we bought a balanced literacy program. We've kind of evolved back to a Basel-driven instruction in the classroom. What we're noticing is less small group, more whole group instruction, which in some cases is perfect, in some cases it's not. So we're going back to just examining the why behind why Journeys came to the table. We also know now we have other tools that say Journeys has some pieces that are missing. Ed Reports has come out saying that it has some gaps. And so we want to ask them and help fill some of those gaps to make sure our students are getting a well-rounded English language arts curriculum. So that's Friday. And I'm gonna hand it over to the high school.
No clicker?
No, it's dead.
Stand over here.
It's dead.
Okay. So, all things considered, in terms of all the changes that were happening at the high school last year, frankly, to still be at meets expectations, we were thrilled. The best way I can explain it though is I'm okay with where we are, I'm not okay with staying there. Okay, so as Trish kind of mentioned, some of the things that we were kind of navigating last year, so the added Aspire assessment, I gotta move this, hang on. Okay, the added Aspire assessment, didn't really know exactly how that would impact our report card. As you heard Trish say, we had many schools, even schools around us, that took over a 20-point dip. So we're kind of, the day it was unveiled, kind of opening up DPI's reports like, oh, how do we do? And maintain steady, which was great. Obviously the new schedule, but I think a part of that new schedule, adding 10 new teachers to the building last year, certainly changes the dynamic of some of the things we were doing in the classroom. Most of them were brand new first-year teachers as well. So all things considered there, as I said, maintaining meets expectations was an okay place. I want to mention our graduation data from 17-18. We did end up taking a little bit of a hit there too. So that particular year, and I want to be a little bit careful about not going into too much detail, but we did have 4 students that year that ended up starting the school year and not finishing, is the best way I can explain it. I'm happy to provide more information at a later time, but and we also had 2 additional students that were listed in DPI as non-completers.
from before I even started. We found out too late, frankly, that we couldn't change their completion status within DPI, so we ended up having 6 students listed as non-completers for that school year. So, happy to give some more information, detailed information about that scenario, but kind of a one-year piece. Last year, graduation rate was 100%, so I'm not overly concerned about it, but it was enough of a hit where we ended up getting a little bit dinged, which, you know, brought our score down a tinge. So, all those things considered, as I said, meeting expectations, you know, we're okay with where we are right now. So we ended up being above state in student achievement in both ELA and math. Both of those scores increased from the previous year. Above state in closing gap, so we were thrilled to see that. We've been doing a lot of work in the building regarding ensuring equity, not only for students with disabilities, students with socioeconomic disadvantage. Our ELA score, as you see, went up almost 11 points from the year before, which is a massive, massive increase. So we were excited about that. Math also having a 4.3 increase as well. And we were above state on track and post-secondary readiness, including graduation rate and graduation rate gap. So lots of areas to celebrate as we move forward. When you talk about the high school report card, one big piece we want to talk about the ACT, right? So in the past, the ACT has been our only data point. So we had a lot of conversations about that data point as far as our report card goes, really kind of being the only piece of data that we were reporting out on, one day, one test, kind of one moment in time. So this year I've moved to a little bit more, which I think is a comprehensive picture in terms of student ACT achievement while they're at Somerset High School. So what I mean by that is, we know that in addition to the one time that they take it with us, many of our students will take the ACT over and over and over again. Some of them will take it as sophomores. I've already had a couple sophomores take the ACT. Some will take it certainly junior year. Some will take it again senior year. And the ACT Corporation keeps track of all that information for us. So students that take the ACT sophomore year, junior year, senior year, all the way through July of 2019, I get a beautiful report that says, okay, your students, when they left Somerset High School, here was their complete ACT data picture. So beyond just the one day, one time, right? Above and beyond that, any other kids that you had take the ACT, here's where they landed. So we feel like reporting, and I'll get to this in a minute, but reporting out that data is so much more relevant because when we have students take the ACT this year, the first week in March, they have a lot more of their high school career left. We don't think their learning is done yet. So that point in time is a point in time when we look at ACT scores that we talk about and we analyze that data, but many of our kids will still continue to learn and take the ACT again. Little kind of sidebar here, starting next fall, the ACT Corporation will allow students to take the ACT test, even sections of the test, as many times as they want, which is awesome, so kids can eventually leave and be able to report their best sub-score to colleges. So if you nailed every piece of the ACT, but oh my gosh, math, I keep getting a 16, 16, 16, you can take just the math portion over 15 times if you want to be able to report out the best math score that you get. So with that said, what I'm presenting here to you is the class of 2019, so last year's graduating class, when they left Somerset High School, this was their ACT picture. So they left with a total composite of a 21.2, which is well above state. In terms of their sub-scores, English at 20.2, you can see math, reading, and science, all of those scores above state as well. So as a class, their composite from when they took it as juniors, the one day, was almost 2 points below this. So if I report out that data, right, obviously that's maybe an important piece of information, but we feel like this is way more relevant. So when kids left Somerset High School, in terms of the ACT, this is what they left with. Okay, does that make sense? So I put on here December 16th report out because obviously as we're talking about all kinds of academic achievement data, the report card, those kinds of things, certainly that is a big part of our everyday discussion at our high school. But part of our vision, which the schedule is a tiny piece of that vision, is we also want to make sure that we are reporting out and measuring all kinds of other things on our students, in addition to just math, science, reading, etc. So December 16th, I will come back and give you a more comprehensive report along with academic achievement data. What other kinds of data and measurable tools are we using to kind of determine when kids leave here, are they making progress, yes or no? Okay? So with that said, biggest area on our report card particularly that we are having conversations with is school growth. So I just kind of clipped a little bit from DPI here when we talk about growth. Basically, as students are moving through SHS from 9, 10 through 11, are they making gains in terms of their knowledge for reading and math? So this year on the report card in both ELA and math, we were below state. Not a good place where we want to be for sure. Math in particular was significantly below state, and right now students in the area of math just simply are not making the kind of progress we need them to make from when they come to the high school through 11th grade. Couple things, Trish kind of mentioned a few of these things, but the math team and I and Trish are having a lot of conversations right now trying to figure out the why, right? Math data in our high school, I would say we're on about year 5 probably of having some ongoing conversations of where we are sitting with math, so this is not a new topic, but really kind of getting back down to some of the fundamentals in terms of our essential standard work, dissecting our instructional strategies. If we're still using some of the same strategies that we were using 15, 20 years ago, those things need to change. Looking at our pacing, looking at our general math classes versus our honors classes. Those classes should not be running parallel. We have honors classes for a reason, so we want to make sure that we are pushing those kids. The elimination of concepts math classes. I think all of this data is further data that our 3 years of concepts classes just simply did not work and actually moved us backwards in the wrong direction. So this year, we don't have concepts classes anymore. And I will talk about on the 16th the way that we're supporting students potentially that are still struggling in math. And as Trish mentioned, we brought on a new resource that I know our math team is really excited about as well. So this is a huge topic of discussion in our building right now. I'm meeting with the math team weekly during their PLC meetings. We're working together, having a lot of conversations of how we kind of wrap some time and energy and goals around tackling the math portion in particular. So my last slide here, just a couple things as Trish mentioned, kind of through the summer and through our first PD day as a staff, really digging into some of the root cause of our data picture. Some of that root cause is the things that are going well. Why are those things going well, right? Obviously the other side of that coin, some of the things that we know that we need to improve upon, how did we get there? So as a staff, we've determined that our instructional strategies right now are things that we are really analyzing and taking a look at. Really looking at personalized learning instruction for our kids that will engage and excite kids. We have data that I will show you on the 16th to show that in general, high school kids, as they move through their high school career, become less and less engaged in school, right? I'm excited to report to you that's not necessarily the data that we have in terms of the data that we're collecting from our kids. Our kids like to come to school, they're excited to come to school, but some sort of disconnect is happening here, right? So, having a lot of conversations there. Our building goal this year, as we kind of, again, stripped down and did a little bit more of that root cause, we wanted to come up with a building goal that we feel like everybody can see and touch, right? So the obvious question might be, was like, Shannon, man, you just did a whole slide on how math isn't going well. Why don't we have a math building goal, right? I don't feel like that gives us the most bang for our buck, trying to force our English department to adhere to a math goal, right? So looking at our data, we were able to kind of strip down and be able to determine that we really want to make sure that our kids are proficient in reading, specifically on the ACT and Aspire. Our data right now, kids are at about 44% proficiency. We want to try to get kids to at least 60%. We believe that's a reasonable, doable measure of making sure that we're showing progress in terms of literacy in our building. So ELA, social studies, and science and world language, all of them have literacy-based SLOs. Their PPGs are wrapped around instructional practices and personalized learning around literacy as well. Math, as you can imagine, has a goal focused on student growth from the Aspire to the ACT. Our CTE crew is focused on student engagement. They've collected some data about that as well. And our pupil services crew is focusing on the mental health of our students, which is a big, big job. So, I know, that's a big cliff notes, but lots to celebrate and lots that we're having some great conversations about. So, questions for me?
Just one. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you've got good student aids. What are some of the things that you're doing when you know kids are struggling? What are some of the things that they can take
Sure.
advantage of?
Okay, I don't know how much
Sorry.
time I have here. No, that's okay.
Just a quick overview because you're coming back December 16th.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. So I guess my general statement would be Because I'm sure this is becoming, the question is due to the schedule, right, basically?
Well,
Is that-
even if it weren't the schedule, just across
Well, I'm
the
gonna
board.
tie it into the schedule, because if I think back to a traditional schedule, 6-period day, for example, 7-period day, right? The opportunity at a high school to access kids that are struggling is almost non-existent. Again, the 1 year that I was in this position with the 6-period day, and there are certainly advantages to a 6-period day. But in order to access kids that were struggling, we had to count on before school, after school, which are almost impossible with high school kids, right? Teachers using their prep or lunchtime, also not ideal. Or pulling students from another either core or elective class to try to get some sort of help during the school day, right? So one of the best things that we like about the schedule is the built-in flexibility to access kids who are struggling during the school day without removing them from another learning opportunity. So we have, kind of think of a tiered approach here. So we have students that can be scheduled in a personalized learning time. So if we have a student that's struggling in math, during their flex time, we will schedule them with a math teacher to be able to get that one-on-one, potentially small group help that they need. It may not be their math teacher. We try, but sometimes the schedules don't always line up. But we want to make sure that they have help with those core subjects when they need it. So essentially removing flex time and adding that personalized learning time. For our freshmen in particular, at the beginning of the year, we had all freshmen scheduled in what we call freshman flex. So they didn't even have access to flex time in the kind of traditional sense that our upperclassmen do, to try to kind of set that foundation right away of some of the skills needed to be able to navigate if you're struggling, right? Self-advocate, all those kinds of things. That comes easier to some kids than others, right? So trying some of that skill building. We have Success Center, which is kind of the next tier above personalized learning time, where students are scheduled with one particular teacher, maybe multiple times per day, to work on some of the executive functioning skills that might be missing. Again, it could be in particular or specific academic help if they need it. I mean, just, it's all really individualized based off of that student. Ms. Cisco runs her Achieve program. We have about 15 students in that program right now, and kids access her in a variety of ways. So we also have kind of our general resource time where our teachers are available if they're not teaching a class in particular. We have teachers in the resource center, we have teachers in the MPR, we have teachers in the lobby, we have teachers accessible all throughout the building in every single mod, every single day. And students have tools to be able to determine when teachers are available and where they are. So those are things we go through with kids during advisory. We have tools on their Chromebooks that we use to be able to help them navigate through that. So I can tell you unequivocally that this type of schedule allows teachers to access students and vice versa 3 times more than we ever would in a traditional schedule. We don't have to rely on before school, after school, all the other stuff, right? And is it 100% perfect? Probably not, but I will tell you, even looking at students last year that maybe you would coin as struggling versus students this year, and I'll present some of this information too on the 16th. It's pretty amazing to watch kids last year that, had a hard time figuring out, where do I go for help? It's my flex time, where do I go? I'm stuck, I have to retake a math test, how do I do that? And watching even freshmen to sophomores be able to navigate that now. There's so much happening within the walls of our building. Some of it is hard to measure. I'll certainly bring everything I have on the 16th, but some of it is anecdotal, some of it is observational, some of it is a student yesterday when I saw her working in the lobby and I said, I've never seen you out here before. And she said, I know, I realize this is the best place that I can work because it's quiet. During these mods, no one else is out here and I know I'll get my work done. Great, because that student last year, she was walking laps in the hallway. Perfect, right? So I have a ton that I'll bring you on the 16th to be able to answer some of these questions because I think it's timely to be able to give you an update and certainly let people know where were we a year ago and kind of where are we now. Again, I think the schedule is just a piece of the overall vision of what we're doing, a big piece for sure, but I know we're excited about the progress, so, right? You guys could probably speak to it better than I could, but, so.
Thank you.
I had a
Yeah.
question about your ACT scores. Would you mind going back
Sure.
a couple slides? When you were talking about how the kids at the end, when they left, they were a couple points higher,
I think so.
and the state average that you're comparing that to, is that state average based on the day in March that
Yes.
you take it as a
Yes.
junior?
Yes, that 1 day snapshot.
Thank
Mhm.
you.
And so, can I just say one more thing about the ACT? Sorry, because I know but the ACT is such a funny thing, right? Because we really view that assessment as valuable to most kids. It is not a valuable and important assessment to all kids in our building. It's just not, right? And we've been having some really good conversations as a staff and with parents and kids about this assessment, right? Because obviously at the high school, it's the assessment. It opens a ton of doors for kids. We know kids that are college bound, every point matters in terms of scholarships and acceptance and all those things, right? We've also been having a lot of conversations of, in what other ways can we measure the success of students, right, other than the ACT? And again, and I want to be really careful because I do believe, I should have probably put most. Most kids, that's an important assessment. Last year, I will tell you, I mean, our composite for our junior class was 19.4, right? So it is what it is. It was 19.4. And that day of testing, I had no less than 5 kids walk out of that testing day after finishing their ACT, probably in record time. Just, why are you making me take this? Why do I have to take this? I know that when I graduate, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Why am I sitting through this 4-hour test, right? And we racked up a couple 12s, a couple 13s. I mean, those, when you talk about averaging, right, like that starts to matter. So we're trying to have some good conversations with kids and families about, yes, this assessment, yes, it's an accountability piece on our report card, so, you know, we have to pay attention to it for sure, but, you know, this current junior class right now, we have a high volume of kids that we know are 4-year college bound, that are moving and grooving, awesome. We probably have about 12 or 13 that we know are heading right to take over dad's business, or gonna start a trucking company that don't need this, right? So we kind of get stuck a little bit of held hostage a little bit to the system, right? Even though our vision really is having good conversations with kids about what is your path when you leave here, because we know it's not all gonna be the same, right? So I'll touch on that a little bit too on the 16th, because I do think that's important. I think that we are, I think that our classes and our rigor and even our ACT prep is gonna, if you're a student that's an important assessment for you, you're gonna be ready and you're gonna do well. If you're someone that this is not an important assessment to, a 12 doesn't help our score here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, more to come on that, but.
Well, I like your goal, just, you know, your building goal, going from 44 to 60.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
huge, it would seem to me,
Mm-hmm.
in taking those tests. So, yeah.
And also measuring other other measures of success.
Right.
So I think that's great.
Yep.
And I appreciate you guys putting this together. So now, are you the end of it or Sarah?
No. Sorry.
now you get
me.
me.
And I appreciate that you're coming back on the
Yeah.
16th, you know, keeping us informed.
Okay, I don't have the ACT to explain. So, in the middle school, we do have a celebration. Our report card score did increase from 17-18 to 18-19. By, you know, we went up to 76.5. So we're still in that exceeds expectations, but we're getting to a little bit closer to that next step, which we were pretty excited about. And biggest area for us is our student achievement is significantly higher than the state average. I just listed that out there for you. I don't need to read the numbers for you, but ours are on the left, the state average is on the right for each of the 4 areas that were tested on the Florida exam. And we are above it in all areas. And then as well on our report card, we had a 76.4 on our achievement in comparison to the state, which was a 61.3. Our growth score was 73.7 over the 66 for the state. And one of the areas that is in the detailed part of our report card is the value added scores. There's some crazy metric out of the Value Added Resource Center in Madison that I don't understand, but they take a student here with this disability of a low socioeconomic status or whatever and compare them to kids across the state that are similar. And so one of the areas that they actually broke it down on this year was kids who were proficient in the prior year, did they make gains last year? And in both math and ELA, our kids who were proficient in 17-18 grew at a faster rate than kids across the state, their like peers. So we've got kids that are succeeding and we're continuing to push them to that next level. I think in math, we were a 4.3, which is out of 5, there's a 4.8 we get, I think it's 4.8 is kind of the max.
3 is typical.
3 is typical
Is that
growth,
us?
so we're considerably above that in getting our kids there to continue to grow them even if they're already proficient. So
Which is more difficult than getting low kids to grow, in my opinion, because they're already at a higher level and you're getting them to grow even more. So, great job.
And then our on track and post-secondary readiness, 90.8, we've been consistently pretty high with that. We had a group, we were a little nervous about our math scores because we had a group that was a little tougher last year and it didn't cause our math achievement where we get hit, not just in achievement, but we also get hit with on track and post-secondary, and we still, because it's a 3-year trend, we're still making gains up, which is fantastic to celebrate. We do have some areas for growth. The area where we fell below state, which was in closing the gaps, which was a big blow to us because that was our school goal last year, is we're trying to shrink the gap between boys and girls because it hits all kids, and we were not successful. So as we looked at that, we did not shrink it by what we had set our goal for. And right now, we were below state in that way. In ELA, we were below by 9.3 points, and in math, we were almost there. We were just below by 0.2. The 2 student groups that we're really looking at on the state report card, because these are groups that we have more than 20 students in that create a group that can be followed, are our students with disabilities and our students who are economically disadvantaged. So we have a concerted effort to make a difference in that area this year through a lot of the work that we're doing. Kids have a lot more access this year. I made a couple of tweaks to our schedule where they have access to extra support more than once throughout the day. So we have our traditional target time that we've always used where they're able to get that. We also have a foundations time this year where kids have a little bit of voice and choice, where they are able to rotate to different teachers' classrooms, to whether they're working on a Genius Hour project or some handwriting practice or some keying practice or reading or writing a novel or whatever that might be, and as well as getting support. It's opened up some time for some of my students with disabilities to have more access to their teachers, which has been, I'm hopeful that it'll be a good piece going forward. One of the biggest areas that I'm going to talk about on the next slide, but we have seen a decline over the last 3 years in our ELA proficiency. A few years ago, we were close to 60% proficient in advanced, and this past year, as you can see on the previous slide, we were down to 50%, which is concerning. Why are kids not making the gains in English language arts?
And this is a measure of not this current year, but
Last year's students, but it's a trend that we didn't just see the drop last year,
Right.
we've seen it over the
Right.
last couple of years, and so that's a cause. So when we sat down this summer with my leadership team, and we looked at all the potential root causes for that particular piece of data, which our math scores are going this way and our ELAs are kind of going that, so we're trying to figure out the why.
Has the test changed?
Well, they cycle through, like it cycles through. So I don't know that it's changed, would you say? But they assess different standards at a different level each year. So, and we don't get to know that in advance. So.
They trick you.
Sometimes, right?
You know,
Sometimes.
we added more math time, but we took it away from ELA.
Not all. Yeah, I mean, we did. We reallocated some time, but we still have other time set aside. But we, so we're trying to figure out, that's part of it. But what we came down to with our building leadership team is that our root cause was that 5th grade through 8th grade, they're not using that common curriculum and pacing or focusing on engaging enough strategies to keep kids excited about reading, wanting to participate in that piece. So as a building, our biggest practice priority that we're gonna look at is that we believe we can positively improve our ELA proficiency by using a common curriculum and pacing and engaging instructional and behavioral strategies in all academic areas. I'm not gonna lie, last year was a rough year behaviorally in the middle school, and we're making some big changes. And we've done that, and we're doing a lot of work with restorative practices this year, and the feeling around the building is a lot calmer. It's been a real positive shift, and we added the piece about, we know if we're engaging kids in instruction, that the behavior will also improve, and if we're working with them that way, and that's an area that everybody can touch in our building, okay? So all of my teams are focusing on those engaging instructional and behavioral strategies with students, not just in the classroom, in the hallways, and those other areas that we see to keep them going. And because we didn't do a great job in meeting our closing the gap score, we're continuing that piece this year for both math and ELA. We were close in math. We've had that 1.9. I think we hit 1.2. Got a little closer, and it was by The bottom came up and so the top rose, but they were rising a little faster. We did not hit it in ELA. So we certainly have some work to do when it comes to closing that gaps between boys and girls, which will in turn impact all of our kids, students with disabilities, as well as our low socioeconomic status students. So that is our focus for this year in the middle school.
Is it balanced literacy the same, or is it?
Well, that's why we're looking at a brand new resource, because we're pretty novel heavy right now. So in looking at ways that we can deliver that differently. So my 5th grade, I've got one 5th grade teacher going one place on Friday, and another one going down to the elementary school to work with Journeys, because they do use Journeys at 5th grade. But 6, 8, we are looking, last week, we met with them for the first time to look at, what do we want out of a resource, what are high engaging strategies to use, and so that's our next step, is to be looking at resources so that we are able to create a common pacing and that more balance than what we currently have. Any other questions?
And then you're gonna do.
Last but not least.
Thank you, Sarah.
I'm now Pam Philippi. Here we go. I'm gonna fly through her pieces. If you have questions, I can try to answer them, or we can direct them to her. She has a celebration as well. Our elementary has been in the exceeding expectations category for a long time. So they're doing great work. They did see some dips here and there, and those are things that we're addressing as we move forward. They were above the state in ELA science and math, above the state in 3 priority areas: student achievement, school growth, and on track and post readiness. Their big component in their building, they only test 2 grade levels, right? So when we compare our elementaries as a school building, we have grades 3 and 4 there. Many of our districts across the state are grades 3, 4, and 5. So it changes the data a little bit. She took a big hit. She was one of the schools that took the hit in closing the gaps. That's a 5-year look at individual groups and how they trend versus a normed group. That is not like to like, that is just norm group versus our subgroups. They took a big hit. They didn't take a 20-point hit, so they still get their scores on their report card. They took a 14-point hit. That is big. They said anything over 10, the state is saying denotes factors that are out of their control, which is why they're changing the way they're going to calculate that score. So this is where they, as a whole staff, as a building, started taking a look at dropping 7.7 points, 7.7 points, well, that's redundant, in math and 6.9 in ELA. When they started looking across, though, where they're seeing the trend versus the anomaly is in ELA. So we're seeing a slight decline over a period of time. So we too at that building have worked with staff to look at root cause. They came up with a practice priority statement after they identified what they believe the highest likely root cause is, looking at practices, and wrote that they believe they can increase student ELA achievement by identifying and addressing each student's needs through use of appropriate, highly effective instructional strategies. So that is their focus of their professional practices. Also, as part of ESSA and looking at that closing the gap, where we see a significant gap between boys and girls, feeling that they can touch all students if they go down that route. So they are continuing to do the work in that area while also examining other subgroups as well. A lot of good stuff going on over there, a lot of great actionable items happening. Part of those actionable items are looking at ELA, K through 5, so we're bringing our 5th grade down. I started talking about this, we're bringing in the experts to do a refresh and movement back to balanced literacy as part of our continued implementation of Journeys. In December, we're going to have a 2-hour webinar also sponsored through our instructional coaches, through Journeys folks, on impactful small group instruction. So we're working around a way we don't have a release day in December. We're working around a way and no staff meetings. So a way to kind of release some folks doing some other great stuff in the building, but having small groups watching this either primary or intermediate 2-hour webinar on effective small group instruction. And then in January, we'll have people on site who will be doing model lessons across the building, where others we can watch in a fishbowl to watch what it should look like if you're really immersed in balanced literacy.
And your 5 will be coming down to do that with the work.
Yeah, we are including 5. We really like the idea of a K-5 solid program. So as they walk across that parking lot to a new building, new big scary everything, they still have the continuity of an elementary curriculum, which is what K-5 truly is.
Thank you very much for taking the time to show us where we're at, areas that we definitely can celebrate, areas that we want to see and make some progress in. But I really appreciate you giving us an update on it.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop as we move forward. We've got some big, big plans. Thank you.
Thank you all. Abby, is there anything you wanted to share? Trent, how about you? Anything? Thank you very much. A lot of details there. Any questions from anyone for any of them? And let's move on to item 7. We're going to skip over A1 and go to A2. I'm looking for a motion to recommend the school board approve minutes from the November 4th work session.
So moved.
Thank you, Lori. And
Second.
thank you, Catherine. Any questions there? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is anyone willing to make a motion for 7B, C, D, and E? Or do you want to do those
So
individually?
moved.
Thank you, Katie.
I'll second.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions on any of those? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Wonderful. We're on to item 8, which was 7A1.
Okay, and I'm hoping that, the board will just open up those minutes real quick. It won't take long. So these are very much out of our normal minutes of meetings, and there is missing any kind of topic direction that was given. And I had requested that, 2 items be added. And, but when you take a look at the meetings, it doesn't tell us, first of all, these aren't resolutions. So I'm just saying, I want to clarify that I want to continue forward. I don't know what caused the change. But there is a big change in how these minutes appear from our normal minutes. And as the clerk, I don't know what happened. But I wish we would go back to the way we've always done them.
So my response was, we'll talk about it here at the meeting, or we can go to the work session to talk about it. I'm going to assume Taja's had some training as to why she might have put it to resolutions. Is there anything, Taja, you want to add?
Yep, just based on some conferences that I've attended for my group of people in this position, is why I made the switch to the format that I have. And this wasn't the first agenda or the first set of minutes that it's been this way. This one was, I don't want to say sparse, but it was very action related. This was the first meeting back from my most recent conference where, again, the attorneys there gave very strong, pointed advice to us to only include board action in minutes and nothing else, so.
Okay, but our policy includes, I would just like, I guess we'll have to have a discussion. I'll bring some examples of what other boards do as well.
And
'Cause I don't think we were doing anything improperly, and a resolution in my head is in writing that comes to the board for, it's like if you have a committee meeting and something comes out of the committee meeting that they've all agreed to, and the board
So if
approves it as a resolution.
So if the word resolution were instead motion?
Well, that's what they are, yeah. But that's.
Or a firm decision to do or to not do something.
Writing.
We made a firm decision.
I just.
I just Googled.
So.
Because
Do you
you
want
have
some-
a
do you
hard
want some
enough
time
time
on the
trying
work
to find.
So
Yes.
let's put some on the work session, because my training as a clerk for St. Joe also included the recommendation that we not include anything that was not actually a direction by the board. So leave out comments, because I was spending hours doing these, because I thought it should include everybody's comment. And they
But
said.
that's not what I'm
"No,"
saying.
and I know you're not. So I'd like the clarification mainly to, CISA, she does it very similar to what this is. No input for Jerry's oversight, like what your presentation is. He usually will include his whole written out thing, but it's a link in the minutes rather than part of the minutes. So let's have the discussion, and we'll, at the work session. So on these minutes, so Katie,
I'm not going to move to approve them as they stand, because I think if anybody was trying to figure out what happened at the meeting at all, in whether it was a once around the table where a suggestion was made to be included, that's not reflected. And I don't know how I can track things then or search for them later.
So we'll have the discussion on what is recommended and what the board would like to see included at the work session, probably the December one, so that you've got some guidance moving forward and more timely. Is that okay with everyone else?
Yep.
All right. So we will table the minutes from October 21st at this time. Unless someone wants to make the motion to approve it, it sounds like we should just have the discussion. Okay. So then on to 9A, our December meetings are the 2nd and the 16th. Our 2nd, we are gonna give our first try at a Zoom, because I will be out of town, but I'd really like to see us do this. So, and actually I'm hoping that we can trial it with a test run, maybe tomorrow, if you have time, because you've got experience with it too. So if she can send me a link, like in some pretend, I don't know, motion or some, not a motion, but some pretend format, so that I can try to link into it, and you, so we can just see if it works. Then now, if we can go to the once around, and I look forward to your presentation on the 16th. Thank you all very much. I really appreciate the hearing what's going great too. Is really just showcases. It's wonderful. Like what they say, tell our story. All right, the once around the table. Anybody want to start? All right. So then I'm going to start. Laura, do you want to start?
Sure.
Thank you.
We, I believe, have some administrative contracts that are up for renewal, and we haven't had any discussion about that yet, and we should be.
They all got signed, right?
The addendums.
Right. So what discussion are you looking for?
Well, we have some administrators' contracts that expire at the end of this school year, and by Wisconsin state law, we have a deadline of, I believe, December 31st.
Right, but when we did the
There's 1 or 2
wages,
years,
and,
so they alternate.
right,
So some are coming up.
Some are coming up.
Some are not.
so, right, and when we did the wage scale, the pay grid,
Right.
we were signing those. So if you want us to revisit them, we
All
can.
we did was the salary,
Right,
so we need to look at the rest of the contract. I mean,
because
there's
you
more
want to change some of the language in it?
Well,
Well, I know
whatever
what you're talking
we
about.
decide
I'll
to
figure out who
do,
they are and I'll get the contracts.
we have to decide whether what we want to do.
Right. Okay, and that's fine.
The policy committee also has researched an employee travel reimbursement policy that we discussed, I believe, at the October work session. We got information from Neola, we also got information from WASB, and we have a policy to bring forward to the board, which leads me to ask about where we are with other policies, because we have not had any in quite some time, and I believe they're probably piling up.
They're not piling up, but they come at certain times throughout the year, and we did just get a new rep that will work through Tasia to send us some, so that should.
There's a few like stragglers from our prior groups that have not been approved yet, but as far as the big master list, we are complete with that, other than those kind of.
So how many are left that need to be addressed?
I don't know off the top of my head. They did just send out the release of a special update for social media today. That includes a few, so those will be coming up, and then the next big batch, they said, will be coming out end of December or sometime in January. They haven't done an official release date yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And I'd like to know when we're going to finish our district administrator evaluation.
That was gonna be at the work session, December 2nd.
Okay, thank you.
And he is getting the worksheets, the DAPES worksheets. So that'll come from him. Anything else?
Nope. Thank you.
Anything, Bruce?
No.
Anything, Katie?
Just, public comment was omitted from the November 4th work session agenda. And I just wanna make sure that it was an oversight.
Right. It wasn't.
Which one?
We missed it on the
November
work
4th.
session, November 4th.
November 4th work session.
That was an oversight, a mistake. And I wanted us to bring, and it sounds like, Lori, you went, I'm sorry. Did you have anything
I'm done.
else? Okay, I apologize.
That's-
I wanted us to revisit that public comment, public participation actually, because I think we all want to, and according to the survey, communication is the key. We all want to hear from the people that are impacted by us, whether it's our students, whether it's, and thank you, student reps, for coming as their voice, whether it's our constituents who have kids in the school or do not have kids in the school, whether it's our staff. So finding ways to address that public comment or public participation is part of that. And I know, Lori, I believe you attended that
I
as
did.
well as I did. And so for us to come back and look at that policy and make it more formal, how we want to proceed, whether we want to do it at every session, whether we want to do it where it's once a month, whether we want to do it twice a month, not at special sessions, we need to come to that agreement again. I only found when we changed the tables, and that was when the discussion happened, but I'm not finding it as having then made a motion or editing any motion. So my apologies for that. I want us to make it right and follow it here to the policy, and we want to hear from the people. So I would also be open to us having specific listening sessions. I think they're very beneficial for people to come. I'd like to see us post them as, public, so that anyone could come and anyone would feel invited to come. So if that's something.
We used to do those.
We did, so I think that would be, and Tasia and I have been trying to find some samples of potential policies for that kind of conversation. So those are that I can think of right now. I think I have one more. Oh, how many of you have the Key Works of School Boards pamphlet? Or have had any experience with that? You do? You do? Have you ever experienced that Key Works of School Board?
Well, I think I have, didn't you give me that book?
I did.
So which one do you have, the navy and white one?
I think it's white.
Do you have one like that? Okay, Bruce, did you get one like that?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll find out if she did. Because I think if we do our work session and our board evaluation, and we're gonna come with the survey summary that we have, that was a suggestion that we should review that or could review that. And I'd like to see us trying to maybe get some guidance on better ways to work together, because I think we'll make a lot more progress when we work together on it. And it's a starting point. So, okay, I am done. Bob, did you have anything?
Yeah, is there an opportunity to have a board retreat to talk about some of the things you were touching on that? I think organizational meeting and potentially some of our bylaws need to be looked at. There's enough things going on that are concerning me as far as board members, and I'm concerned about it. So, but I don't think tonight is the time or the place to bring it up. So, but I would like to have that conversation sooner or later.
And you called it a
So we can
retreat?
all get on the same page and act like a board of 7 and not a board of a few.
So you'd like to do it as a retreat?
Yep.
Kind of a thing? Okay, we'll find a date.
I'd like a board retreat, I think that'd be
Okay.
good.
And I think I started with Lori, so did you have anything?
No.
Okay, can we find a Monday that, in addition to, because we were initially gonna do it in January at the work session, but if you want it on a separate night, can we find another Monday? I'd like to keep it on a Monday just because of how scheduling goes. So if you can send me 2 or 3 possibilities, I would prefer, how soon, what's the time frame you will invite?
As soon as possible.
So before Christmas?
Yep.
Is there one available before Christmas?
So
You want
second
Tasia
Monday
to
of the
put
month,
some notes
how's
on
that?
You want Tasia to-
What's that about?
How about the second Monday of the month?
Well, let's try, the second
Oh,
one
if
would
you'll
be
make that
December
one.
9th. You would not, could you do it by Zoom?
No.
No, you're, okay, so that one won't work. So we've got the 2nd, that would be the 9th, that one does not work. The next one would be the 7 and 7 is 14.
16,
No, not
that's our
16.
regular session.
So then we're into the Christmas week, the following week, so I don't think that would be good choice. This, if we were to try and do it this next Monday, that's today is the 18th, so 7 after that, the 25th, we're into deer hunting. I don't know if that,
I don't hunt.
I don't either.
I don't hunt at night.
Is the deer are jumping out in front of my van as it is, so I don't do it intentionally. So could the 25th work for everyone here, and I will check with Pat?
Yes.
Could it work for you?
I'll see.
Okay, so we'll tentatively try for the 25th, and we will try and, we would like it to be all of us in attendance. So if that does not work for either you or for Patty Jo, then we will find another date. Thank you, guys. Well, good things are happening. We've got some great people. We're making some progress. You guys worked hard on the policies, and I thank you for that. We've worked hard on the grid.
Do you want a motion to adjourn?
That's what I'd like.
Before we adjourn, do you wanna say anything about the, WASB's convention? I emailed Tasia, she said she had 3 rooms in downtown.
Basketball?
So maybe you'd rather send out an email about that? Either way is fine with me.
Did you send it?
I didn't send out a general email, I just was
Oh,
emailing,
okay,
answering some
okay.
questions, yep.
Old something.
Okay, thank you.
8:30, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Bob. All those in favor to signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Great. At 8, any opposed? Great, at 8:30, thank you.